Pakistan cricket at its best. 1 minute down, next minute up.
Thanks very much, everybody, for joining me once again. Sajid bringing you another exclusive interview. Delighted to be joined by esteemed Caribbean journalist, cricket writer, commentator. He's done television commentary over the years, radio commentary. Basically, he's the voice of West Indies cricket and a long-standing friend of PakPassion, the one and only Fazeer Mohammed. Fazeer, thanks very much for joining me. Hope you're well.
All well, and not so well as far as West Indies' recent performances against Australia, as we know only too well, but great to be with you once again.
Well, Fazeer, we rarely speak when it's good news for either West Indies or Pakistan, but at least there's a series coming up where they're playing against each other and one of us might be happy after the series.
I suspect so, but again, as we know with these two teams, you're never too sure what can happen on any given day, especially when they play against each other, because you're talking about two teams with quite a bit of talent, but they're just so unpredictable. It just makes it very, very difficult to work out how they're going to perform on any given day.
Focusing firstly on the T20I series, Fazeer, I mean, looking at the rankings, West Indies are 6th, Pakistan are 8th, and these are two former champion teams in T20I format. This was a format that both teams were very strong in. And look at their rankings and look at their lack of form. I mean, as you said there, West Indies come into this series against Pakistan having been hammered by Australia, and Pakistan come into the series having lost to Bangladesh.
Indeed, and as we're speaking now, after the humiliation of 27 all out, of course, in that test match in Jamaica, the West Indies at this particular time are 3-0 down already in the 5-match T20 series against Australia, and have been well beaten, despite the fact that, again, many of their players are in great demand in T20 franchise leagues all over the world. Of course, they've lost the services of Nicholas Pooran, who's retired from international cricket. But when you look at it overall, there are enough quality players in the West Indies team that would make you feel that they should really be putting up a better fist of theirs so far against Australia. But once more, there just seems to be that lack of team cohesion. It's all well and good to have a collection of star players, but whether or not they play consistently well as a team, that continues to remain an area of concern for Caribbean fans.
I mean, I guess that's the million-dollar question that people want to know, that, you know, why has West Indies cricket, in the T20I format, obviously we're focusing on that initially, why have they slipped so down the rankings, and why is that a lack of consistency when, as you quite rightly say, you look at every single T20 league around the world and there's so many fantastic West Indian players?
Yeah, and that is where the concern lies. You know, there's so many reasons why West Indies should be performing a lot better, given what we see in the individual ability of those players. But there's something going on, especially right now, of course, with Darren Sammy as the head coach. He has been the head coach in the white ball format for a couple of years now. He's just recently taken charge in the red ball game as well, and that's why there's so much clamoring for his head in many quarters in West Indies cricket, given the humiliation suffered against Australia with that 27 all out. But it's really difficult to work out, because the West Indies got to the semi-finals of the last T20 World Cup in the Caribbean, performed creditably, lost a real tight fixture against South Africa, but since then, their performances have really gone downhill. And it's difficult to work out whether it's something to do with the team dynamic, whether there's a situation where players aren't particularly happy with the way the team is set up, with the team structure, whether it has to do with issues with the coach or just generally. But it's really been a sharp downturn since that T20 World Cup.
And having only won one out of the last 11 completed T20Is, West Indies that is, you know, some good news perhaps that Pakistan are their next opponents, and Pakistan come into the series having lost a T20I series for the first time ever against Bangladesh. So it might be the sort of opponent that West Indies can match and possibly beat.
Yes, I'm sure they'll think so. I'm sure they'll want to believe that, look, taking on Pakistan, who are so unpredictable themselves, this is an ideal opportunity to get on the winning track, and there would be some validity in that argument. But then again, you're talking about a team, and we're talking about Pakistan here, with so many quality players, so many players who've proven themselves on many different environments, whether playing for Pakistan or in franchise leagues or the PSL, quite obviously, where they would gain a lot of attention. The West Indies are in any position to feel either overconfident or complacent against a team like Pakistan, simply because the West Indies just haven't been able to get it together. And yes, they might say, well, okay, Pakistan are almost as inconsistent, probably sometimes even more inconsistent than the West Indies team. But then again, on any given day, Pakistan are the sort of side that can beat the very best in the world. And that's why the West Indies will have to be on their A game if they want to get back on a winning track at the expense of Pakistan.
Well, quite a few of our viewers and members asking why West Indies Cricket Board play matches in Florida. Fazeer, perhaps you can answer that question.
It has been going on a decade now, playing, especially at the stadium in Low Florida. You actually developed with the help of Lance Gibbs, and many greying heads like mine will recall the great Lance Gibbs, the West Indies off spinner, who was the world record holder for some time with 309 test wickets. At the end of his playing days, he migrated from his native Guyana to Florida, and that's been his home. And he's been instrumental in the development of that venue as an international cricketing venue. And certainly Cricket West Indies, which has actually overall responsibility for the Americas region, when we talk about the ICC, that includes, of course, North America. They've seen the USA as a market that they really want to develop in, because not just for the significant West Indian diaspora, many people from the Caribbean would have migrated to the United States, but also the subcontinental diaspora, because there are thousands and hundreds of thousands of fans with roots from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, who live in the United States. And it's something that the Cricket West Indies authorities have wanted to tap into for many, many years. And that's why, for example, we saw T20 World Cup cricket last year being played in the United States as well. So that's something that they've been trying to really develop and establish as a solid aspect of the international calendar, where they play matches in Florida and attract larger and larger audiences from the United States.
And it's interesting that the Pakistan Cricket Board wanted a full series of T20Is for Fazeer against West Indies, but West Indies held their ground and said, no, we'll play 3 T20Is and 3 ODIs. I mean, I can understand why the Pakistan Cricket Board wanted the T20Is with the T20 World Cup coming up. But yeah, it's interesting that West Indies Cricket Board, they stuck to their guns.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a question of prioritization for both teams. The T20 World Cup coming up, you'd want to play more T20 internationals to really get in tune for the tournament coming up next year. But from a Cricket West Indies point of view, they'll be looking at where they want to grow the game at other venues, and therefore develop their white ball team in the longer format as well, because that's also a concern, because we can't overlook the reality that the West Indies failed to qualify for the 2023 Cricket World Cup in India. They've missed out on the last 2 Champions Trophy tournaments. So it's been a real source of embarrassment for West Indies fans, especially given the fact that just last month we were marking the 50th anniversary of the West Indies lifting the inaugural World Cup in 1975. And to be in a situation now, in the last 3 major 50-over tournaments, it's something that not just Cricket West Indies, but West Indies fans in general have been asking themselves, why have things deteriorated so badly with the 50-over-a-side team that we can't even qualify for these major tournaments? And I'm sure that will be one of the reasons why Cricket West Indies want to play some more 50-over cricket, never mind the fact that there's a huge demand for the T20 format.
And again, the question is, why are the West Indies struggling so much in 50-over format? I mean, the ranking ODI rankings at the moment, Pakistan are 4th, but West Indies are incredibly 10th. And who would have thought that the West Indies would be ranked 10th in this format?
And you know, Sarge, that's where the West Indies have been for quite some time, and that's why I mentioned the failure to qualify for the Champions Trophy, missing out on the 2023 World Cup, just scraping in to the 2019 tournament and finishing second from bottom with only Afghanistan below them in the 2019 World Cup in England. The West Indies have just fallen off the rails almost completely in the 50-over format, and it's again, clearly it has to do a lot with the inability of so many of these talented cricketers to get their act together in the 50-over format, because it's almost as if we're reaching the stage where 50-over cricket feels almost like if you're asking the average West Indian to play test match cricket, because they're so attuned to T20, sometimes even T10s, as you would have that tournament in Dubai and other places where many West Indians are involved and earn lucrative contracts. Playing 50-over side cricket almost seems a step too far. And when you look at our regional competition, known as the Regional Super 50, you understand why there's so much of a struggle, because the standard is quite ordinary. You could almost say poor in many cases. It's very much the same with our first-class game in the Caribbean, the 4-day format, which probably explains why we are struggling so much in Test match cricket, that the standard really doesn't seem to be bringing out the best in many of our cricketers in the 50-over format. So players find it hard to struggle, they find it hard to build innings, they find it hard for the bowlers to find a consistent line and length when you're talking about bowling spells in 50-over cricket. So there are many different elements that speak to the declining quality of our domestic game that is now reflected at the international level.
Do you think that's an oversight on the part of the cricket board, that they've let the domestic competitions, become so poor, or is it just a lack of interest in cricket, or is it like a generational thing where players are looking at other sports, or youngsters are looking at other sports, perhaps?
I think it is a combination of many different elements, but I think primarily we've dropped the ball. When I say we, I'm not just talking about Cricket West Indies, I'm talking about the individual territories, because for many of your viewers who may not be aware, the West Indies is a collection of individual sovereign nations. We're talking about nations like Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, where I'm from, Guyana, the Windward and Leeward Islands, which are 8 different islands in their own right, the likes of Antigua, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, and so on and so on. And therefore, for the individual cricket boards, it's important for them to have their game develop and have the game grow in the various territories. But we are looking at our domestic competitions. In fact, just within the last few days, we've had the under-19 tournament played for the men and the women in different parts of the Caribbean. And the standards are really, really worrying. And we have to ask ourselves, is enough being done to bring out the best talent, to attract the best talent? And it's not as if they've all migrated to play basketball or other sports, or American sports for that matter. There's a lot of cricket still being played. There are a lot of youngsters still keen on the game, who still love the game. But for some reason, it seems that we've lost that ability to really bring the best out of our players, out of our cricketers, as if it's almost too much of a challenge to really push our players to excel. And we're talking about the domestic level, the club level, the territorial levels. And sadly, that is being reflected in our regional cricket. So it really comes back to our domestic games at club level, whether it's being played with the same level of intensity or regularity in the school environment. And those questions, especially after the 27 all-out in Jamaica in the test match against Australia, a lot of those questions are being asked right now as to what can be done at the domestic level in our different Caribbean territories to revive the game and get us back to where we should be, at least competitive on the international stage.
I noticed recently, after the debacle against Australia during the Test series, that West Indies Cricket Board sent some media notifications out, basically suggesting that a lot of ex-players were being invited, some former greats were being invited to, almost, set up a working group or to at least advise the cricket board regarding how things can improve, Fazeer.
Well, Saj, when that was said, many people who have followed West Indies cricket, and I'm sure even outside of the West Indies, would have just rolled their eyes because we've heard all of this before. In April of 2024, right here in my home country of Trinidad, in the capital in Port of Spain, there was a major conference held over 2 days involving even regional political leaders, the prime ministers, and prominent names in West Indies cricket. We're talking about the likes of Clive Lloyd, Michael Holding, Derek Murray, and so many prominent names offered their own perspectives. Brian Lara gave a long, detailed analysis of his own understanding of the history of West Indies cricket so people can be aware of where we were and where we are. And nothing really concrete has come out of that. And the feeling is that Cricket West Indies often does these things as they did when even in 2022, when we failed to qualify for the main draw of the T20 World Cup at that time, when Nicholas Pooran was captain and we lost to Ireland and Scotland and couldn't get into the main draw of the T20 World Cup. A similar thing was done. There was a three-member committee that was set up, including Brian Lara, including Mickey Arthur, the former South Africa and Australia coach. And again, nothing came from those recommendations. So the feeling is that Cricket West Indies, almost as a defensive tactic, throws up these invitations of big names so to almost insulate themselves from severe criticism, because the feeling would be that, well, if you've got these big names, your Clive Lloyds, your Shivnarine Chandapols, your Brian Laras involved in some committee to try to rectify the situation, then fans would be reluctant to criticize and condemn. But that's not been the case, because the fans, the media have really rounded on Cricket West Indies and saying, look, we've heard all of this before and nothing is going to come from it.
And finally, Fazeer, whilst Pakistan aren't the force that they once were, they haven't got the big names that they once had. But they're still a popular team in the Caribbean, aren't they? One remembers some of those great series of yesteryear, and I suggest that Pakistan still remain one of the most popular teams in the Caribbean.
Saj, I'll tell you this: that over the many decades, and yes, you're right. It may not be the era of your Imran Khan, Javed Miandad, Zahir Abbas, and so many others down the line to the present time. But there's no question that the talent that you see available in Pakistan cricket, a country of so many 100 million people and are all passionate about the game, and you watch Pakistan taking on the best in the world in all formats, and so often they're very, very competitive, but just manage to throw it away, to fritter away an advantage. And it just seems so West Indian in many ways. And that's why, from my own little experience of international cricket and having experienced the West Indian fans' love for Pakistan cricket, I always mention on this program, Saj, that 1988 three-test series in the Caribbean, where you had two teams, probably the most powerful teams in all of world cricket, West Indies and Pakistan of that era, fighting to a 1-1 series draw here in the Caribbean. And again, Imran Khan believed that but for some umpiring decisions, his team would have prevailed 3-0. But even at that time and before and subsequently, West Indies fans have always had this tremendous admiration for Pakistan cricket because of the way they play the game with that same sort of panache and style and aggression and, quite frankly, unpredictability as well, that just seems so West Indian in many ways. That's why for all these decades West Indies fans identify very, very closely with Pakistan cricket.
Many thanks, Fazeer. Always a pleasure listening to your views, and your passion for West Indies cricket always shines through in these chats we have. Let's see what happens. Let's see what this series brings. Hopefully, maybe West Indies win one series and Pakistan win the other, and we're both happy.
Indeed, that you never know. That could very well happen. But I think more than anything else, for both our cricketing nations, as we're talking about it, I think we want to see quality cricket. You don't want to see a mediocre series. You want quality cricket, may the better team win. But at the end of the day, it's really only to the benefit of the game in our two territories and for the fans that they see quality cricket and a keenly contested series. And let's hope for that.
Indeed, Fazeer. Thank you very much. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. You take care.